One of my favorite recent worship songs, I guess Christian radio songs, is there's a song, and the line is, it's talking about how many blessings they have, and he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and then says something like, "I can't count them anymore." Like, I'm like, you can't get past.
You still have a finger left.
You can't get past 4, but they're talking about how many blessings, and like, I was like, 5, 6, 7, 8. Who do we appreciate? That guy.
Don't do that on a Sunday. just don't.
Welcome to the Gathering Greenhouse, a podcast to help us grow together. I'm Steve.
Do you think that this plant has the healing power of aloe in it?
No.
Okay.
It's not an aloe plant.
I'm David.
I'm John.
And we are ready to shoot a podcast.
Woohoo!
Are we ready to, or are we doing it?
We are doing it. So
It's like the worship songs. They're like, I just wanna.
Yeah.
I just want to worship God.
Just wanna worship
I just
you.
want to
I'm not
lift my
going to,
arms.
but I want to.
I just want to.
just want to have fun.
That's the word. The classic is, "I can sing of your love," and it goes on and on forever.
Forever.
But like, you just don't. You're singing about. You're not actually singing.
What about the
Yeah.
one that was like 1,000? One day in your courts is like
Better
1,000
is
elsewhere.
one
I'm like,
day
what?
in your
That
courts.
what? Yeah, I don't want to do 1,000 elsewhere. What does that even mean?
You know that's from the Bible.
I was
right?
going to say, that's
I know.
inspired scripture, Steve.
I realize that.
Man.
But the way you sing it in a song,
Makes it kind of seem weird.
it makes it seem weird.
It's kind of like I could walk 1,000 miles and I'd walk 1,000 more.
Yeah, exactly. It's
No, you
like
couldn't.
it's exactly that same concept. Yes, it's kind of like, what's the point here?
Well, also
It
because
makes
those
it
guys
seem
like
worse.
are like they start in the United Kingdom, so they gotta at some point they're gonna have to walk across water in order to do this.
True.
One of my favorite recent worship songs, I guess Christian radio songs, is there's a song, and the line is, it's talking about how many blessings they have, and he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and then says something like, "I can't count them anymore." Like, I'm like, you can't get past.
You still have a finger left.
You can't get past 4, but they're talking about how many blessings, and like, I was like, 5, 6, 7, 8. Who do we appreciate? That guy.
Don't do that on a Sunday. just don't.
So you're talking about generosity right now.
Look at this guy. Just like
he's
boom,
Trying to-
right into
Well,
it.
I'm not. It's not going right into it. I'm going somewhere though.
Okay.
So
All right. Don't knock Steve off his focus.
we have a generous holiday coming up soon, Halloween, right? Because you give candy to little kids. It's very generous to your neighbors.
There's
and
so
to
many things I want to say right now.
I just want to make an
give out
observation.
of abundance of candy.
And
that
I'm just curious about this.
Yeah.
Because I think you more than most people,
Yeah.
when you talk about kids, you often call them little.
Okay.
Like some people would just be
Maybe.
like, no,
Could be
like
true.
some people would
The
be
youngins.
like, you give out candy to kids.
Yeah.
And you very often modify
Not really
that with-
big
with
kids. You
little.
generally don't see them there.
But here, I'm going somewhere. So
Yeah.
do you think that when your kids get older, you'll just start referring to just kids? Like, because maybe the reason I don't say little kids anymore is because my kids aren't little.
It could just be that I say it for some reason, and I know it's it's totally.
All right. So follow up. When big kids come to your door at Halloween, do you give them candy?
Well, what we do right now is we just put the bucket out, and it's a free for all. So probably once the big kids get there,
three
the
groups
bucket is
show up,
the
it's gone.
bucket's
That's how
gone.
you turn the little kids into big kids.
But here's
right.
the thing: my neighborhood is so generous that there's plenty of candy getting given out. So there's no shortage of candy.
So
we could be done in a half hour
Yeah.
with a full bag.
we did that for a long time with
Yeah.
the bucket out front thing too, because we wanted to go out with our kids.
Yeah.
But I would always put a sign on there that said, please only take whatever,
Yeah.
like 2 or 3. And then underneath it in bigger letters, it said, God is watching you.
Oh, really? You'd say that?
I did. I put it
Okay.
right there.
So were you allowed to dress up at Halloween? Or was it like Halloween didn't exist?
No, so this is the strangest.
a little-
This is the strangest thing. Yeah, Halloween was fine.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
I know.
kind of very
It's
surprising.
absolutely crazy, but yeah, Halloween was fine. It was like, we can't.
But
can't
what could
watch
you dress up
TV,
as?
We can't go to movies. We have to wear corduroys all the
Martin Luther.
time.
But you can celebrate.
But Halloween, anything
Wow.
goes. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So you went like you went in your neighborhood, or you went to a neighborhood?
Yeah, we
and
just went in our neighborhood.
Okay.
But so much of my life as a little kid
Yeah.
was in a really small town.
Okay.
In the center of Michigan. So it was like, it wasn't like around here. It wasn't like a suburb. It was just like a really small town.
Yeah. So here's a question for both of you. You went trick-or-treating with your kids when they were little, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is, as the dad tax, what's the candy that you would avoid at Halloween?
It's kind of like at a discretionary rate.
Yeah.
It's like if it's a Reese's cup, I get the whole thing. If it's some nasty candy, you can just have it. And then
We didn't have a dad
those things.
tax.
You didn't. So what candy would you like?
No, it's just all. It was all mine.
It was all yours. You could have any
I just
of
took it all. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think actually we would just like when they'd get back, we just we help ourselves whatever we wanted.
Yeah.
There was no sense of you have to give. I mean, there may have even been times when we just dump it all together and just had a bowl on the kitchen table and free for all, take whatever you want.
Do you know any kids that like Almond Joy?
Seriously?
Your kid, when you were a little kid, you liked
when I
Almond
was a
Joy?
kid, I liked Almond Joys. I still do.
He just called you a little kid though.
Yeah.
When you were a little
When
kid.
I was a little kid. Yeah.
You liked almond? Mm-hmm. Do you like it now?
Yeah. It's probably my number 2
Do you like it?
No,
candy.
I do not. And I would call myself, I like coconut,
So
but I do not like almond. I wonder how are they, isn't there coconut and Almond Joy?
No, they're almonds.
No.
What?
No.
There's almonds in
so
it.
There's Mounds and there's Almond Joy, which are the same, but Almond Joy has an almond on top.
Yeah.
And
That's what I
that's all
thought.
the difference. But they're all coconut and chocolate.
You didn't know this?
So my grandpa, he was like obsessed with coconut. And so like when we were like kids, he was always like giving us like Almond Joys and stuff. And so I just grew up.
So help me
liking it.
understand this, because I'm just befuddled by this. Like in the pantheon of candy bars, so
Yeah.
exclude Reese's, right? Because
That's the
obvious, right? So where does Almond Joy fall for you though?
How does it even? How does this candy bar even exist? That's what. Who is
Well,
keeping them
I'm
in
with you,
business?
but like for you who
Me.
say you
It's
like
just
it,
me.
like where
There's so
like,
many other better choices.
Yeah, what's ahead of it for you, and what's actually behind it for you?
This is challenging. So
Snickers.
I don't love Snickers. I like
What?
I like so for me my favorite
Milky
candy
Way.
bars. I'm not a big caramel fan.
So you're saying Almond Joy is better than Snickers, better than Milky Way?
Yeah. So here's my top. You got Reese's, then you've got Three Musketeers,
Yeah.
then Almond Joy. I'm gonna say
That's
Almond Joy
just
slash Mounds.
What about Butterfingers?
like,
Is that on the
there's
list?
Butterfingers in my
Twix?
top 5. No, I don't love Twix.
Kit
Payday
Kats?
is my other favorite candy bar.
Kit Kats, right?
Kit Kats are great.
Those are all great. Those would be like top 10, but
All ahead of Almond Joy.
Find it very hard to believe that Almond Joy makes it in your top 5.
they literally
I can't believe they make it in anybody's top 10.
I can't either.
I'm with you on.
I don't know how they're in business.
Here's the other-
There's some kind of coconut conspiracy going on here where they have to like push it because
I had a racket
it's in
growing up
it's
as
in a lot
kid.
of the variety. Like every year you go to some place and someone's passing out Almond Joys to little kids.
Who does that?
I don't
It's
know.
like-
I see it every
Mark-
year,
wonderful
and I
people.
wonder
Actually, I don't know
how
who
are they
avoid
getting
that
in.
house.
They're getting.
That
It's
is
got to be
just-
in a variety pack because I
hand
don't
them out.
think someone's going out purposely buying.
No, but you know what?
Bite-sized
If-
Almond
If you're
Joys,
looking
you
for
know.
a variety pack,
Yeah,
and you see that Almond Joy is in it, don't you just say,
skipping it.
"I'm not buying that"?
I'm not buying that variety
that's
pack.
right.
I don't.
but
hand
maybe
out
like
Almond Joys
Sam's
to
Club
kids. I keep
is
them for
like
myself.
making it such a good deal.
I want
it's
to
discounted.
spiritualize this just a little bit.
Yeah,
Okay. So, like Steve and I, who are the righteous people on this podcast today, we suggest that if there's an Almond Joy in the bag, even if there's other good candy bars, that the Almond Joy ruins the bag. And this is very similar to a metaphor in the Bible of leaven, that leaven ruins the whole loaf, which is a metaphor of sin. That if you let a little sin in and don't deal with it, it ruins your whole life. And so don't get Almond Joys in your variety pack.
Yeah.
And
But
don't
if you do, give them
and don't let sin in your life.
Is the chocolate on the Almond Joys a dark chocolate?
I don't think any chocolate on any candy bar is actually dark, but it's
Right.
darker than like a.
But is it like
Hershey.
less milk chocolatey?
I think so.
Okay. It's more like maybe what might be in a York peppermint patty kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's probably close.
See, that'd be a much more fun conversation to talk about, like which candy bars have the
Your
darkest
peppermint
When is
patties
the-
are up there for me too.
When is the
I
last
love
time you
those.
bought a full-size York peppermint patty? It has to be.
Oh, probably like yesterday.
I have no
what?
idea.
You bought?
Daily.
Nah.
No,
There's no way.
I do like them though.
Okay.
I love your peppermint patties. They're up there.
Yeah, although
Junior mints. Those are good too.
yeah, I think the peppermint patty's better.
So speaking of generously celebrating pagan things,
Yeah.
Steve.
What?
This didn't go where you thought it was going to go, did
No,
you?
it went exactly where I thought it was.
Did you know he liked Almond
No,
Joys?
I didn't know that part of it, but I knew that.
I think there's
I know
more of
that
us
this is
than-
a
than
hot.
you guys
It has to be a
realize.
hot.
Okay,
topic.
well, I
There's
want
a
to put
lot of
this
us.
out to the 3 viewers of this podcast. We need you to comment, okay? And I know we sometimes ask for comments and very few people give them.
Yeah.
But we really need some comments on this because I want there to be this overwhelming tidal wave of condemnation toward John so that he understands how wrong he is to like Almond Joy. So please let him know.
Guys, coconut's great. I love coconut.
I like coconut, but
Why not Almond Joys then? If you don't like coconut,
I don't like almonds.
well, there you go.
I just don't think
Almonds
the
are great, too.
combination is good.
So would you eat a Mounds?
No.
I wouldn't eat
So
a
it's
Mounds
not
either.
about the almond; it's about the coconut.
I think
I
it's
just don't
that
think
whatever
I just think it's just
the,
not a good
like,
candy bar.
You know, it's the dried, gooey thing where they make it into like a patty or whatever you call it.
I'd rather eat a payday.
Is not good. Coconut is
love
not good
Payday.
in that form.
Yeah,
That's up there for me too.
I like payday. What's the $1 million one?
10 grand, 100 grand.
100 grand? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I like that one.
That one's good too. I like a
All
whatchamacallit.
better than
Whatchamacallits
all
are
better than
underrated.
Almond
Yeah.
Joy. Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys were very,
disturbing.
very talkative here about
I really want
your
an
candy
Almond Joy right
selections.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
So, should we talk about some stuff from Sunday? Some gratitude
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got a few questions here about Sunday's sermon. And this is it's an interesting concept here, but it's fun. It might be fun to discuss it, which is more important, gratitude or generosity?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
one is more important?
I'm going to let you guys answer it
Yeah.
first, then I'm going to give my thoughts.
I feel like this is a bit of a
a trick?
trick question
It's a
or a
two-sided
catch
coin.
22 or whatever, however you want to put it, because they go together, like,
Yeah.
So I might say if I were to be forced to answer this question, I would probably say gratitude, because I feel like gratitude leads to generosity. Because I would say that you need to work on having a heart, I don't know how I say this. Work on your gratitude, and that will lead to generosity.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't like the phrase "which is more important" because that they're both important in very different ways. So, like gratitude, I think, like you said, precedes generosity most often, and the natural effect of pausing and saying, God, thank you for what you've given me, is you realize that he has given you things so that you can use those for others. But then that generosity piece is really like, that's how God often works through you. And it's tempting to say that's the most important part because it's for others, but we wouldn't have ever gotten there if you didn't stop and, pause and say, God, thank you for what you've given me. I don't think you can split the two. Mm-hmm. I think it's the attitude that is thankful is also the attitude that's going to be generous with what they have. And so I don't think they're as, one or the other as you can you be thankful and not be generous? I think for a season, but I think you just can't, you're going to end up being generous. Yeah. I don't think you can avoid that.
But here's a question that goes along with this here is, can you be grateful for what you've done? Right. So if you took it and said like, oh, I'm grateful for all the hard work that I put in this for my family. So like, does that a sense of, or does gratitude
That's not
have
gratitude.
to be? Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
It's
Is
just pride, right?
That's pride.
okay. Yeah. So gratitude has to be in the sense of the fact that we are blessed more than we deserve, or gratitude in the sense of, we realize that there's a lot of things that we're thankful for that's out of our power, or for things that we don't normally recognize.
Doesn't ignore your effort and what you've done.
Yeah.
So if you've worked really hard and you've been able to, you should feel a sense of accomplishment. There is a type of pride that people can experience. It's not pride. It's like, I'm proud of what I've been able to do. The gratitude piece says, but I only did this because of the gifts that God gave me. Hard work is actually an acknowledgement of the time and the energy and the effort that God has given you, the opportunity He's given you. That's actually there's a response that is rooted in gratitude that says, I'm going to use this thing well. And gratitude just simply says, but it's still, at the end of the day, that is something that came from God. Mm-hmm. And then the pride pieces would be no, I just did it all on my own. It's like, well, no, you didn't. Who made you the way you are?
So then, in this sense, are we talking about gratitude in the relationship to the things that God has given us? Because could you have a sense of gratitude outside of that?
Yeah.
I think so. You can be grateful for, I can be grateful towards Steve and have gratitude towards Steve, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But there's always an object of my gratitude.
Yeah. So you're saying it has to be something outside of your control.
I think that's exactly it. So I would say what gratitude is it's an acknowledgement that an external factor beyond my control has been beneficial for me, right? But to take the question of, can you be grateful for something outside of God? Like you said, you can be grateful for something Steve does, which is correct and true. But that's only a level of gratitude. There's still a higher level of gratitude to be acknowledged, which is that Steve only exists because of God. Right. Now, you understand that, but not everybody understands that. So your gratitude for Steve should actually be a greater gratitude. Right. Because it's not just Steve, it's also God's provision of Steve.
And I think that's rooted in a healthy understanding of gratitude. But then there's also this things like there are people who celebrate and rejoice and are express a form of gratitude for things that are not from God. Like if I am excited and happy and thankful for something bad that's happened to somebody, you are still practicing a form of gratitude, but it's what is the object of that? And often that's where it's not just the feeling of being thankful, it's actually the being thankful towards the right thing and for the right things is a piece of that, I think. Yeah.
And I think along with gratitude, the more you realize that there's so many things that we're blessed with that is out of our control, or factors that is just maybe purely the place where we grew up and where we live. To that, it's one, that when we start counting the things that we're grateful for, we realize how much we're actually blessed with. Yeah. That we take for granted each day. And two, we also realize that, there's a lot of other people who would love to be in our positions all around the world, right?
Sure.
And I think that plays into it. I personally don't think we should take that too much into consideration, because that does, downplay God's, in that we kind of have to be content with what God has given us in every situation. And if we're just saying, hey, compared to that person, my life is great, it really kind of starts downplaying that, hey, I really shouldn't be comparing myself to others. I should just purely be content in where God has placed me, because He placed me right where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, is that gratitude's not about comparing.
Yeah. Gratitude
is about
It's
noticing.
Easy to go there, though.
It is. It's easy. And it sometimes in some cases, comparing can be helpful, and in the sense of saying, I'm grateful to God that I don't have that, or that I do have something that someone else. But I think you have to be super careful, because it does often lead to pride, arrogance, or even complaining if it's comparing the other way.
I think the story of the rich man going to pray at the temple. He's like, God, thank you, I'm not like these tax collectors. Thank you, I'm not like these people.
Right.
He is expressing gratitude, but he's saying, thank you for favoring me and making me better than all these other people, which is not gratitude. That's pride.
Yeah. So let me weigh in there, because I think that's actually a really good way to kind of synthesize all of this. I think you guys pretty much nailed it, that gratitude often precedes generosity, as it should. But I would take it a step further and say gratitude that doesn't lead to generosity is really just an empty exercise, which is, that Pharisee. It's a little bit like the gym bros, right, who go and they work out at the gym all the time just so they can pose in the mirror.
I thought that was one word.
Gym bros?
It's like...
Those gym bros.
It kind of is. No, so I mean, all they want to do is pose and look at their muscles, and they're building all this muscle, and they're never going to use it. Versus the old school NFL player who's just this big fat guy. He's got a lot of strength too, but he's going to use it for something. And so gratitude is like that. You can fine tune how you do gratitude, like the Pharisee, but if it never leads you into generosity, it's just an empty exercise.
Can you jumpstart gratitude by choosing to be generous even before you have really explored what it means to be thankful?
I think so, because I do think there's, I've talked about it on Sundays a little bit, that cyclical effect, like kind of an upward spiral that between generosity and gratitude. I think it's harder that way. I think it's a lot easier to start with gratitude because I think gratitude really kind of, so what we're not talking about at all, and we will in upcoming weeks, is contentment and how that plays into the equation. It's hard to be generous if you're not content.
Yeah. And
contentment is from gratitude.
I think one of the things I've been thinking about is, and I'm wondering if this fits in that cycle, is that, often if you're talking to somebody and they're struggling with, and I'm not trying to be insensitive, but like, woe is me, my life is awful, everything around me is
right. They're always the victim.
They're always the victim. One of the things I would tell somebody to get out of that rut is to go do something for someone else.
Yes,
because you're shifting your you're shifting your focus off yourself and your problems onto doing something for someone else. And I'm wondering if that's part of that is it's kind of like getting you into that generosity gratitude cycle, which is the healthiest place mentally to be.
That was going to be my argument to it, is that, oftentimes if you have a problem, right, and you try to help someone with the same problem you have, you end up helping yourself figure out your own problems.
Because you remove your selfishness from that equation.
So I call this principle if move your feet and your heart will follow. And it's actually Jesus' principle, not mine. We often think that Jesus said, where your heart is, that's where your treasure will be. He actually said it the other way around. He said, where you put your treasure, that's where your heart will be. And what he was saying was, wherever you move and act, your heart is ultimately going to follow your actions. So sometimes you have to choose to be generous, and you have to choose to be grateful, even if you don't feel like it.
And when you get that concept as well, when you start following Jesus and you get that concept, you still have to it's still a choice you have to make, right? So regardless if you get it or not, you have to choose it.
Right. Yep. So I think we all agree gratitude and generosity is not one that's more important, but there probably is a process. And it usually starts with gratitude.
And when we're talking about generosity, we're not just talking about money, right? We're talking about all areas.
I think we're going to talk about that with the next question, aren't we?
Yeah. But I think that's, for someone who hasn't started being generous in their life, I think, good steps are some of the challenges that we've done in the past, where it's like, hey, give a little bit and see where how God provides.
Right. What's the next question?
The next question here is, it leads right into it, right? What are some baby steps a person could take to build up their generosity?
So how can someone get started?
I think it goes into this perfectly.
Right.
Of what we're talking about.
Here's where we say generosity is not just about money, right? So it's about what I give with my time, what I give with my energy, what I do relationally, all those things, how I use my words. I think, people maybe don't think about this very often, but your words can be generous, and your words can be selfish. And so, how you use all those things is generosity. So like baby steps. I don't know. What do you think?
What is a baby step that you could take? So the thing that I really liked seeing that we had done in the past here is I think it was like the $10 challenge. I don't know exactly. It had to do something.
No, we call it the generosity challenge.
Generosity challenge, but often along with that, you'd say, if you're not giving anything, give $10.
Correct.
See if God provides for all your needs.
Yeah.
And that puts a physical dollar amount with saying, man, I don't know, because there's that fear of like, ooh, I don't know if I give this away if I'll have enough to take care of my needs. And it's that baby step to say, well, hey, I gave away $10 and I didn't miss it. Okay, let me try to up that. So I saw a lot of good from people who have never given away anything to say, let me start here.
Yep.
And you can kind of see their heart for generosity grow.
Right. Yeah. So the generosity challenge is basically it's $10, and then if that works, you give $10 more.
Yeah.
And you keep increasing that until you reach the level of generosity where you think you need to be. And I think that's great because $10 isn't that much.
Yeah.
You can find $10.
Well, and what I like about that is this is how you build any habit. You don't just start with the end goal. You take a small, obtainable, something that you are confident you're going to be able to do this week. You start there, and then you move on and you keep pushing yourself. And so, like kind of like that generosity more than just $10. Like it could be, I'm going to do one thing this week.
Yeah,
that is generous. I'm going to, I'm going to have a generous conversation. I'm going to have a serve this person in this way this week. But don't start going like, oh, I'm going to put 15 hours into being kind to my neighbor this week. You're not going to do it, and you're going to feel like a failure. But could you do one thing?
Yeah.
And so just start with one, and see how it goes, and then don't settle there.
Yeah. Like and take this all the way across the board. So like with your words, there are some people out there who are never generous with their words. And if you are that person, you probably know that. And so maybe it's like, I'm just like, one time this week, I'm going to encourage someone just out of the blue. I'm going to encourage someone, or maybe one time this week, I'm going to send an encouraging text to someone or a funny meme or whatever it might be. Or maybe you say, hey, I'm going to, for the next 6 weeks, I'm going to give something away every week.
Yeah.
And then you just find something. What would be really radical is to say, I'm going to give something away every day. And you maybe just every day you put something in a box, and then at the end of the week you take that box to Goodwill. By the way,
great way to clean.
Oh
Not
man,
Goodwill. Don't give it to Goodwill.
not Goodwill.
Give it to Salvation Army.
Yeah.
Okay, Salvation Army.
They're better.
I kind of use Goodwill
Yeah.
the way we use Google.
Okay.
right?
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
So to me,
Like
Goodwill
Kleenex.
is right like Kleenex. Like Goodwill is just all
Sure.
the thrift stores.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do we hate Goodwill though? They
I just think their practices are a little questionable, in my opinion.
If you're involved with Goodwill,
I don't
stop.
know.
But I'm just kidding. I've seen some stuff that suggests some
Highly
live.
paid CEOs,
But
and the people on the bottom,
paying people
who
15
they
cents an
yeah
hour.
who
but it's Goodwill.
yeah.
I mean,
The concept is great. I'm just saying I would be more confident in Salvation Army is doing actual good
and
things
we
with
have
the money that they
several local.
well, that's the other thing. Is just go
targeted
local.
options, so-
Just go local.
I always
right?
am gonna say
Yeah.
that. So
All right. So there you go. There's your answer.
get. Okay.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. And okay, I want to kind of relate it to my kids a little bit too for
your
a second.
little kids.
Your
my
little kids.
my little kids, is that right? That I always try to teach them that once again, like we should be generous because also there's times where we need people to help us as well. Like it's like kind of an understanding that like we're all in this together, and the sense of like you should be generous because there's times you need help too. So you should be looking to be a generous person and a person who looks to help others.
Isn't that how the mafia works? Like we're gonna take care of you, but
Scratch my
we're
back, I'll
gonna
scratch
we're gonna
yours.
call in a favor later and kneecap you.
Well,
if you're not.
no, because they're looking for like, a lot of profit. They're not
Right.
looking, hey, let's go out and take this money from these people because, we may.
It's do unto others,
Yeah.
as you would have them do unto
and,
you.
and what
Yeah,
you're
and
saying
that-
is actually the gratitude cycle.
Right.
I'm thankful for how others have blessed me in the past.
Yes.
And that is motivating me to help others now. It's not some karma-esque, I put good out into the world so good happens to me.
Right.
This is it's a reaction to what God has already done for you.
Yeah.
And helping your kids see that at an early age is going to just totally change their mindset.
It helps you to be less focused on yourself,
Yeah.
right? If you're like, and a good way to put it is in the light of like, hey, we all go through tough times. So you're not saying, hey, I don't want to focus on like this group of people is a needy group of people. No, these are just people just like you and I. They're going through a difficult time in life. We should be looking to help other people, not we give to the needy people, we give to the poor people. Like, that's all good, but that kind of puts them in a light of like, that's that group of people. That's not us.
Others them.
That's others them. I want to say it's all of us.
What a
we
great
may need help too.
Opportunity in that to recognize that it's not just money.
Yeah.
Right. So we easily go, oh, they have more money than me. Then there's no need for me to ever be generous towards them.
Right.
And the reality is, well, what about when someone in that family gets sick? Yeah. They may have more than you, but they may need help with kids, and they may need help with someone just making meals. It's not about who has and who doesn't have. I think that often really slips into this, where I think our culture has really struggled. It's that socialist Marxist-esque kind of attitude of the haves and haves not.
Yeah. We
all have at different times have certain things, and we don't have certain things. And recognizing that just because someone might have more than me in one area, it doesn't mean, there are plenty of people I grew up with who had more than I grew up with, but they didn't have a 2-parent household. I am fortunate to have had that. And so it is like there is something in there that was broken and missing, even if they had more than me. What are some ways things I could have done growing up to be kinder? Or I even, growing up, I shared my dad a lot. He was a youth pastor. There were a lot of kids in that youth group that didn't have a dad. That is a generous thing. It has nothing to do with money. And so I think stepping out and seeing it's not just about who has and who doesn't have is really good.
Yeah. And you just alluded to something that I think is really important when we talk about generosity, that we also need to be generous with our assumptions about people and the way we think about people, the judgments that we make. We need to be generous with all of that, which means I don't assume the worst, or I don't assume that somebody doesn't need me, all those things. So good thought.
Yeah. All right. So last question I have here, along these lines of generosity, we don't really talk about money a whole lot at the gathering, and we really, in the whole time that I've been here, we've never actually had a real push towards that. We do a lot of generosity stuff and help people to be more generous. But right now we are in the beginning of a campaign called More Than Able campaign. So why should someone give to the More Than Able campaign?
Yep. So I think there's a lot of reasons why.
Yeah.
For at the highest level, is just because when we give, we're making a statement about trusting God, and it's a real opportunity for someone to receive God's provision after having given away what I was relying on, and that just helps me to see God's provision. So that's kind of the highest level of I want to learn how God operates, and I want to align my heart with His. So I'm gonna give. On a more practical level, there's just the idea that, hey, this is an opportunity to get on board with something that has an actual eternal impact, right? So I don't know what God has planned for the gathering over the next 5, 10, 15 years, but when we finish this project, there will be spiritual benefits of that. Like there will be opportunity for more kids to know Jesus, more teens to be equipped to live, more adults to sit under the Word of God, and that's going to change lives. And in every one of those lives that is changed, that will have been facilitated by the gifts that people give over the next period of time. And so it's an opportunity to really invest in something that we hope God is going to do. And I think that's a really cool opportunity.
Well, and that's why we shared Lincoln's story on Sunday. Lincoln's story is he came to the gathering. He was new in his faith, and they were looking for a church, got connected, and he's now here every Sunday volunteering, investing in high school and middle school kids. He's super involved in bringing in other young adults who are similar to his story. And this has been like a 2-year process for him. But if we hadn't had a seat for him when he showed up, if there hadn't been people who were, if our church, hadn't been here, Lincoln's story wouldn't have played out that way, and likely he might have found another church and it would have been fine. But the way it's played out is because, when this church was starting, there were people who said, we're going to give generously to make sure that there's room for people to come connect to Jesus. And when you step back and recognize, like, Lincoln's one story here, but there's many stories in our church that are very similar to that. And I think countless stories to come, that are going to have that progression. They connected at our church and connected to Jesus, and how many lives are they going to impact now? So it's bigger than just my generosity gave that guy a seat. It's like my generosity got that guy a seat, and then he also brought in all these other people. And it's such a cool thing to think that what you do with what God has given you can have just that multiplying effect.
Yeah. I think the cool thing about like Lincoln, and he's not the only one, but he's, a good example, is he's a young guy.
Yeah.
And, he's got maybe 60 more years of kingdom impact. So, he'll live beyond all of us. And every single person who's invested in the gathering up to this point is a part of Lincoln's story.
Yeah.
And that's going to have long-term, eternal impact on we don't know how many people. Yeah. And I think that's awesome. And that's a great reason to say, hey, if God has given me a little bit extra, I want to invest it in the kingdom. Yeah. And I want to see, 100 more, 1,000 more Lincolns.
Yep.
I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And I would love 1,000 clones.
That's why we
Lincoln.
exist.
Yeah.
That's why we exist as a church, right?
Yeah.
Is the Lincolns and the,
on
all
a mission to connect more people to Jesus.
Right, because Jesus
nobody can
means,
see it because of your microphone.
Jesus means life change in a positive direction, right? If you're following Jesus and you're doing what he says, like there's a reason so many people's lives have been deeply affected because of the life-giving message of Jesus Christ and what that means for us. So.
Yeah. So I'll wrap the more than able thing just by saying, this is, for a couple more weeks, we're going to keep talking about it. And then people are going to have an opportunity in November to make a commitment. And I just hope a lot of people are starting to think that through and pray about it and think about it and talk about it. What's that going to look like for me? Like, what do I want to invest in the future and in the kingdom? So hopefully people will do that.
Okay. So great.
All right.
I'm gonna sign off. I'm gonna sign off.
Before you sign off, you're gonna give us
another.
Wait, but before you,
I'll give you just one because we kind of went long with this one.
Wait, before you do though, we talked about this last week, Steve.
What's that?
And it didn't happen this week.
What's that?
There was no food.
Well, I knew we had a lot to talk about in this one.
Throw David one of those Chewy bars.
I don't want no Almond Joy.
I'll bring in some Almond Joys next week for everyone.
About Almond Joy.
Uh-oh.
The podcast is over, Matt.
I found a list of 63 ranked
and it's number 63
chocolate bars.
It's not even on the list.
And this list is based on sales, longevity, and the action of the products at their release. First off, which one do you think's number one?
Just give us the numbers.
Reese's.
Snickers.
Nope. Invalid list. Everything this list says doesn't matter.
At 45.
That checks out.
Because there used to be, probably back in the day, if you got a mint, it was like Christmas.
Give us your closing.
Okay.
It's been an Almond Joy to be here with y'all.
Thanks. Okay, that's it for today on the Gathering Greenhouse. Thanks for. I'm butchering this.
Just
by the way,
right there. That's
Wait, did you write this?
No.
Okay.
I did not. I took John's advice and went to ChatGPT to put out for me. So that's it today for the Greenhouse Podcast. Thanks for being part of this growing community. You like that? Let's keep learning, keep connecting, and keep letting God do work in us. Have a great week, and we'll see you back here soon.
The problem is it's not a growing community. We still have 3 viewers every week. Do you have another one?
Well, growing. Well, I was just gonna. I think that's good enough for today.
All right.
Kind of stole my. I was kind of trying to sign off for that. So bye.